everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home and Away, a podcast devoted to all things in and around the world of sport in Kansas City soccer. I am Drew Vanderploeg, joined once again, as always, by my good friend Cody Welton. This week on the podcast, it's been a couple weeks since we've gotten together, and Sporting Kansas City has played a couple of games, both having a bit of difficulty in the first half, but showing some fight in the second half, coming back with 2 goals against Seattle to narrowly lose that match, as well as get an equalizer against New York City FC and take home a draw this past weekend. It was a trend of continued, perhaps pragmatic, but also necessary tactical changes at halftime by Kerry Zavagnin, and we have seen this happen quite a bit this season as he continues to try to figure out, first, the best way to set up the team to start a game, as well as adapt to game states and what the opponent is offering to try to get the most out of the roster that he has. I think we can all agree that the roster that he has is not what we would say is complete or
good,
sufficient, or good. I was going to say sufficient for getting consistent results in Major League Soccer. And as a result, he's having to make a lot of on-the-fly adjustments based on how players are playing at that point in time and trying to get the best out of them. And it has been very bumpy as a result, and I think that that would be expected. So obviously, 2 games. The Seattle game seems like 7 years ago at this point.
Truly,
but it was fairly predictable seeing Jordan Morris score off of a cross. It was, the things that we have become familiar with Seattle doing to Sporting Kansas City. So we know Seattle is a very well-coached team, and they created chance after chance after chance in this game. This game was not close in the first half at all. It was but it was definitely a tale of 2 halves. Now, whether the tale of 2 halves was more due to the fact that Seattle was already up 3-0 or the actual substantive value of the changes that Zavagnin made at halftime, I think it's a little of column A, a little of column B. But what were your thoughts? We can honestly talk about both games because they both were less than ideal starts, and this has been kind of an ongoing trend for this team, especially at home this season.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a confusing trend, and the fact that it is such a consistent trend, I think, makes it even a little bit more confusing. I thought that I didn't think anything surprised me about the first half specifically. I think you and I had predicted that it was going to be a pretty a tough job for Sporting Kansas City to compete against a team that's as quality and as deep as Seattle is, and that proved to be the case. I was really impressed with the fact that they kind of stuck it out and were there at the end of the game, and that's becoming a theme with the team as well. And that is from my standpoint, one of the few things that really gives me a little bit of optimism about Kerry Zavagnin staying on as a coach, if that's indeed what happens. Because there's not a lot of other things that really jump out to me, honestly, either good or bad, frankly. And so, but that's just one tick, a positive tick in his favor is that the team plays for him. They play hard for him. They play to the end of the game. They have an expectation always that they're going to be competitive at the end of games. And I think that is, that's a vibe that comes from the top. And I definitely, as a fan and as a person interested in soccer, I really truly appreciate that. But that does that kind of underlines the perplexing way that the team kind of starts games sometimes, especially this game. I found them to be really sort of sluggish and not really into the game even before the penalty. I thought that they did not look good, and I think that a lot of that had to do with some of the players who ended up having to start, and
well, they were choices as well. So
there were choices.
I'll give credit where it's due. Thad spoke about this a little bit on Shades of Blue this week, or maybe Mike Kuhn as well. There's a question to be had about these choices being made to start matches that are leading into significant changes needing to be made at halftime.
Right.
And so the Seattle match, we have this 4-2-3-1 with Memo and Zoran Basong playing in a double pivot. That was a choice, right?
Yeah.
Like that was a significant choice to be made. And Memo came off at halftime for Jake Davis. And things got significantly better. I mean, Zoe and Jake had played in a double pivot fairly successfully towards the end of last season, so it's a partnership that has some familiarity. So you would expect, if you were going to do that double pivot, and we saw it again in the 4-4-2 in the second half against New York City, where Jake and Zoe were playing in a double pivot, and it just seemed a little bit strange to me, unless Kerry's making it a point to Jake because he's kind of not been of the level in central midfield. We spent a lot of time in the last podcast talking about kind of, our frustration with the fact that Jake hasn't had the best season. We haven't seen him sort of take another step. It's just sort of been that similar level. Chad Smith had some things to say in the Discord about the fact that, he's been moved around and hasn't played as much. And I agree with that assessment, but also Jake's played 7,000 pro minutes at this point. Like you expect more of a player that has that level of base. And we shouldn't be having to give him the benefit of the doubt as much.
Yeah, he's not that young anymore. He's not a quote unquote developmental player anymore, and I think that given his trajectory last season, I think that it's fair to for us to have assumed that he would have sort of continued that this season, and it's absolutely right that he did not. He was done no favors by the fact that the team started without a right back, and then he got injured, and there have been some things along the way. But at the end of the day, he's a professional, and he has to get on the field and perform and do so consistently, and that has been a difficulty for him. And that continued on with the game against NYCFC too. I mean, he didn't start that game, and so it's just kind of like, what's going on here? To your other point, I can't remember ever seeing a team at like literally any level of soccer with so many halftime subs based on poor first half performances. It's crazy.
But is that simply an effect of the quality of this roster, and just sometimes guys are going to like, these guys aren't that good to begin with, and so when they have an off day, it's really bad, and you just have to get them off the field. You know what I mean? And it's hard to predict when some guy's going to have a shit day and it's going to be really bad. We mentioned this several times earlier this year, where one of the major issues with this team was that the roster is so lean on talent that everybody, all 11 guys, have to have their best day for this team to play well. Yeah. Right? And it's just not likely, right? That's not likely. And so when 4 of them are not having their best day, it can be pretty bad because their quality is such that a bad day for them is a glaring issue. Yeah. Right.
And when 3 of those guys having their worst day are on the same side of the field, right? It's just one-way traffic, man.
You just get
actually it's two-way traffic. It's just it was pretty brutal. And to that point, Shelton had just a terrible game, especially in the first half. Paul Rothrock was just spinning him constantly.
That's probably why he got benched. I assume that's why he got benched for the NYCFC game.
Yeah,
and we see what the other option looks like. And Brody, he's a backup at best, right?
At best,
and while he, I don't expect him to run down Perea in that circumstance.
Yeah.
And I'm furious at Joaquin Fernandez for making absolutely zero attempt to cut the passing lane out. It's still like, it wasn't like he was that great otherwise,
No.
right? Like he was meh at best, right? The rest of the half. And he wasn't offering anything on the attacking end of the field, which ostensibly would be his value to having him on there. Especially given, I don't know if you looked at the average positioning, but they were definitely having Bartlett back and playing sort of a 3-2-5 in possession. So you'd expect Brody's wide delivery to be of value, and they just never got anything out of it. So, yeah, I think that, but that's the point, right? It's like all these guys are so like, that when 3 or 4 of them have an off day, it's just noticeable. Like it becomes a really big problem. It's not like and the other thing is it's a really big problem because like Joveljic had an off day against New York City FC, which is his first off day in like fucking 2.5 months.
Yeah.
But because he was bracketed so heavily by Hawk and Martins, it really made it difficult for them to get anything out of Joveljic.
He took one shot in the whole game, and it wasn't until the 70th minute.
They had him in a closet, man.
Yeah,
like
they did.
And I mean, good for them for doing that. It also meant that Shoppy got on his left foot a lot, cutting inside, and he just never really got the shot off. Like, that's the thing. It's like, we know if Shoppy can get in space on his left foot, usually he can do magical things with it. And he scuffed like 3.
Yeah.
When he was able to cut in on his left because they were so focused on Joveljic. And so there was no help from the fullback, from the left center back, right? They were so focused on, so the fullback was just sort of shepherding Shoppy inside. And I was like, man, if he keeps getting these shots, it's going to, and he just kept, he had an off day, right?
Yep.
So it's like, this is the nature of this team, is that, so that's the point that I'm making, is like, Kerry could put any starting lineup out there and potentially be in for this type of, with the current roster, he could put any starting lineup out there and potentially be in for this type of half, right? And I think if you consider an opponent who is fresh at the beginning of a game and is willing and is able to exploit gaps, and you have 11 guys out there, 7 of which are, of questionable MLS starting quality.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm pushing it too far, but it's
No,
definitely six.
I don't know
of
that
which,
you are.
Yeah. So 7 of which for sure, 7 of which probably, 6 for sure, 7 of which probably are questionable MLS starting quality. And, 3 of those just have an off day.
Yeah.
Like, a good team is going to take advantage of those, especially in the beginning of a game when they're fresh. I think what happens at the end of games is Sporting does actually have quality attacking players on the bench, like decent attacking play, not like, oh my God, but decent attacking options to take off the bench, and a coach that is perfectly willing to put them in early to see what they can do. And therefore, against a tired opponent, they are able to sort of circle the wagons. And most MLS teams on the road, in the heat, with a lead, late in the game, are not going to try too hard to go forward. They are going to focus on trying to absorb. And Sporting has been successful in those environments of creating chances. So, not like a ton of them, but some, right? And they've been successful in the Seattle game, earning 2 penalties. In the NYCFC game, Santi Munoz kind of just sort of efforts his way into a rebound for Shalloy. So I don't know. I just think I don't know that this is indicative of anything other than just the roster's not good.
Yeah, I would I would concur, and I would also qualify it by saying if it's still kind of difficult to tell how good of a coach Kerry is, because we know he's not Wilfred Nancy, right? Nobody is except for Wilfred Nancy, but he's not out there taking a bunch of mediocre players and making them into suddenly super competent MLS players. That's not what's going on. But at the same time, he is able to push the right buttons at the right times at the end of games to salvage points. And I think that I guess my point is that I'm still just kind of like up in the air as to how good he is. I think I'm all the way in on John Pohl's camp at this point, and I think I've said that before. I think that he is for me a starting level goalkeeper, and he is he's a net positive on the team. He solves more problems than he creates.
Well, and he has slowly gotten himself to that place this season.
He has dug himself out of a deep hole.
I was going to say, because 6 to 8 games into this season, you would not have said that about him.
Absolutely.
And he is definitely at that level now. In fact, I think it was right around his birthday when he had a really good game, and it's been mostly good since then. I'm not saying that he hasn't had a slightly off day or something like that, giving up a bad goal here or there. But he has been a net positive for the most part across most of these games. And I think, like we said the last time we recorded, he makes key saves in important circumstances, which I think is really hard to quantify in statistics, but it's something that you can see in the match. Going back to Kerry, he is exactly 500 since he took over. So six wins, 6 losses, 5 draws. So that's 17 games. The team's actually gotten worse in XGD since then.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. So they were under, and this is in the league because we don't have the numbers from Champions Cup, but I don't really care about those Miami games anyway. They're sort of irrelevant. The 6 league games under Vermees, the expected goal differential was negative .77 goals per game. And during Kerry's time, it is negative .93 goals per game. Now that's not non-penalty. They don't have non-penalty. It's hard for me to get non-penalty XG goal differential without doing a lot of effort. So, but still, it has gotten actually a little bit worse. And I think it is because of Kerry's insistence on playing, attempting to score. And trying to move the ball forward, right? When Vermees was still in charge, the team was pretty dire to watch and was extremely boring and mostly just sort of sitting back and just like doing nothing offensively. I still think that this team is not very good offensively, but they're at least trying to do something offensively, even if they don't possess the talent to pull it off. I think another thing that you highlighted when you compare Kerry to, say, a Wilfred Nancy or Jesper Sorensen, who we're going to see this weekend, it was on display on the first goal that NYCFC scored. This team does not seem to have any type of passing patterns at all.
Right.
Wilfred Nancy has extremely drilled sort of spatial sort of triangles that rotate around the field as the players rotate in and out. And players are instructed to show into space, and the guy with the ball knows that player is going to be in that space and will hit it there. Sporting, when I watch them play, there are guys anticipating movement that just doesn't happen, or guys hitting the wrong pass for what the movement is. It happens a lot. And this transition play that creates the first goal, the Manuradia has, I don't know who the fuck he's passing to. I really don't. Like, it is so clear. Like, I'm watching him hit this pass, and I can see that it is directly to 2 NYCFC players. Yeah. Like, I literally have no idea who, and I'm not talking like I'm at high level and going, how can he not see this? I'm fairly close to field level, and I'm like, how did you think this pass was coming off?
That wasn't the first time in the game that he had done that either.
He'd done it several times, and it comes with sort of casting him in this left-sided 8 role where he's meant to sort of progressively pass.
Right.
And this is not something he's really done since he's been with this team.
Yeah.
And then you move him further up the field where it's a higher need or you need that type of passing from that player, and he's trying to do shit he's just not very good at. And it's just like, I can appreciate trying shit, right? Like sometimes you have to try shit. You try to pull something off. But there was no window here, and I saw no teammate.
Right.
Like, I have no idea who he was trying to pass it to. And so it's like this type of thing, I do have some concerns when it comes to Kerry's coaching. Is he too much of a man manager, sort of Carlo Ancelotti style of like, go out there and do your thing. I'll put some structures around you, but I want you to play soccer. He is, you can tell that he gives them the wherewithal to go play soccer. Given how much we see center backs on the ball, sort of deking a presser and driving forward, those are things that you just would not see under Vermees, right?
Yeah.
He has sort of gone the other way. But I wonder if he's gone too far the other way, because it just seems like a whole lot of guys who aren't that talented trying to pull off shit they don't have the skills to do. Whereas maybe some level of predictable structure might be useful so that they can get the ball towards the scoring area. Because I feel like right now it's just like, did something happen to work? Not did we create this via a planned philosophy?
Right. Yeah. I totally agree. And I think that, when I think about this, the concern is that ownership is okay with that in terms of results, and not realize that, part of the reason that Peter Vermees was able to, sort of consistently punch above his weight was that he was, he's okay tactically, but he definitely had a team that was well drilled, and when you put the right players, it doesn't even have to be the best players, but the right players in that system really functioned really well, and if you take that away, and go with a little looser system, then you really have to complement that with better players.
Right. Carlo Ancelotti can get away with this because he's at fucking Real Madrid.
Right.
But you don't see Nottingham Forest doing this to get results. Like, they have a very dogmatic approach at Nottingham Forest that got him into Europa League, it looks like, after all of these appeals and whatnot. Brighton, right? Like, if you look at a few of these, Brentford, right? Like, if you look at a few of these teams, and I will say that Thomas Frank has been, at the least, a bit malleable as players have come in and out of Brentford, and it'll be interesting to see what he does at Tottenham. But as far as what his system is based on his roster, but it's still, once he gets it, it's a fairly dogmatic system, right? It is a very specific way of playing.
You can tell that the team that he coaches has expectations when they attack, and they have expectations when they defend, and that those expectations are drilled into them, right? With Sporting gets on the field, and a lot of times it's kind of, I think, up in the air as to what their plan is and how they're trying to accomplish that plan. It just kind of looks like they're just kind of out there hanging on for dear life half the time.
And part of that might just be because they're not good enough to execute the plan.
Right.
I mean, and so, like, in fairness to Kerry, it is difficult to assess his coaching ability, because I'm not even sure Wilfred Nancy could have come in April and turned this team around, right? Like, you could not have just come in here, Wilfred Nancy couldn't have just showed up, put in his 3-4-2-1 and made it work immediately, right? It wouldn't have. Maybe by now we would have started to see some results, but I don't know if you remember, the first year in Columbus wasn't that great, right? It took a minute for all of that to sort of gel. And Kerry didn't get a whole preseason to install a system with this team. He came in, midway through and had to sort of adjust a locker room that had been so regimented.
Right.
With everything that they were supposed to do, both on and off the field, and get some buy-in from the players at the same time so that they could start to win some games. That I think, maybe that's playing into it a little bit. I also think, honestly, there is a part of this conversation when it comes to personnel choices and trying guys in different roles and whatnot that is related to 16 of these players being on options or out of contract at the end of the year.
Sure.
And going, are we getting rid of all of these guys? Are we keeping some of these guys? Let's see what we have. Can we make use of this? Can these guys compete effectively? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because candidly, replacing 16 players is not reasonable to do in one off season. Like, the team's gonna be a mess next year if that's what they do. That realistically, because there's gonna be no rapport, there's gonna be no consistency, there's gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, I think at some level ripping that Band-Aid off may seem, exciting because of how poor the team is right now, but it's not as simple as just replacing those guys and making it work. And so I think that at some level they're trying to understand how important is it for us to really, which of these are we like definitely no, and which ones are we like, okay, maybe we'll pick up your option next year just to create some level of consistency going forward. Or maybe it's like, hey, we're going to let you play a little bit so you can find your next deal.
Yeah.
Please go find another contract somewhere, right? I mean, it could be all of those things. So I think all of these are in play at some level. But I don't think Kerry's punting on potentially trying to win a game just to get guys on the field. I think he's switching guys out who played like shit in the previous game.
Yeah, I totally agree, and they did, and the replacements didn't play much better, and so they got subbed back in the second half in Kyrie's situation. But
right, and I felt like Kyrie played pretty decent in the second half of this game, the NYCFC game, after being, like you said, basically garbage.
Yeah.
Against Seattle. So, but I think again, this is endemic to the situation of the roster. Joaquin Fernandez had one of the higher G pluses on the team against NYCFC, and he infuriated me most of the match.
He was terrible.
And because there are things that he does, so like Joaquin Fernandez, Nemanja Radia, players like this, they have a couple really nice skills that when they come off look great. Joaquin hit like a 60-yard ball onto Shallowy that he one-timed at the goal. It was beautiful.
It was
like,
great.
He has stuff like this in his bag, which is amazing. But his deficiencies are so bad that they don't offset. Like, it doesn't even out to, whatever. Because when your deficiencies are so bad, they give up massive goal-scoring opportunities to the opponent.
And you're a defender? Yeah.
And you're a defender? Like, I don't give a shit if you can hit a ball over the top. I need you to be a better defender, right?
Yeah.
Nemanja Radia, unbelievable ball control under pressure. The guy is a press-resistant monster. Cannot progressively pass.
Yeah. If you can't hit a pass, there's no point in keeping the ball.
Why? Yeah, cool that you held the ball, dribbled out of double man pressure, but you can't hit the next pass. So what's the point?
Yeah.
In fact, oftentimes you hit it to the opponent, and because you're going forward with that pass, they're by you by the time you've realized what's happened. So, like, this is just kind of where this team is. Like, they have one or two positive traits, but their negative traits are so significant that it doesn't balance out.
Well, and you talk about those negative traits, on the ball instances, but like neither one of those players are players you can press with at all, and so that complicates that issue as well. Like, you can't build out because you can't progressive pass. You can't press because you can't cover enough ground or be fast enough or defend in space, and so you're left with a mess. And that's kind of what we see on a regular basis is long stretches of games where they're just a mess and they can't win the ball back. They get played through too easily. They can't, once they win the ball, they can't do anything with it, and then it'll coalesce into a moment of magic, and it's like everything's okay, but that doesn't negate all the crappy things and the underlying numbers that go with those crappy things that you just watched for 40 minutes.
Right. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I mean, it's just sort of the nature of where this team is, and I think I am warmed by the fact that, like you said, the team seems to fight for each other. The vibes in the locker room seem to be good. They are getting results. I mean, they've only lost one of the last 5 games.
Yeah, their record is amazing. I think all things considered.
It is, but it's also a little bit of fool's gold, as we
Sure it
discussed
is.
last time we
Absolutely.
recorded. And I mean, realistically, they, you know, I'm going to need to see more of them actually performing at the level of their expected numbers
Right.
before I believe that there's been a shift in some way. I mean, I think Joe Lowry put it in his power rankings this week that this is the first time that Sporting had been under 2 xGA in this month of July, which
Headed in the right direction, at least.
so I mean, I guess there's that.
Fortunately, we don't have to play any more good teams, so we're all good.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have Vancouver, San Diego, or Seattle on Vancouver twice.
If only we could play St. Louis every weekend.
Yeah, no shit. Exactly. Did you see that Joel Klaus is supposedly going to Liga MX?
Bye. That's hilarious.
I think it's hilarious. I mean, Liam made a good point in the Discord. It's like I actually prefer when they have Klaus on the field now because he's so bad.
Yeah,
I would actually prefer that they don't get rid of him.
I agree.
But anyway, the Schadenfreude watching him is amazing. Sandy Munoz cannot seem to get a start for this team unless Dan Joveljic is having a baby. What? But when he does come on, he is immediately a functional, useful attacking player. I think Kerry's still trying to figure out how to get him on the field with Joveljic and Manu. In this case, he didn't get him on the field with Manu. Manu came off, and they went to that 4-4-2. But still, maybe it's difficult to work this out formationally and responsibility wise, and they don't want to create more defensive problems than they already have. I can understand why that would be the mindset, but is Santi Munoz really this good, or is he this good because he's going against tired defenses on hot days in the summer?
No, I think he's this good. I just think he is he's a classic positionless player. Like he's very much in between roles. Like he's not really a winger. He doesn't score enough to be I think a center forward. He's not a good enough creative passer to be an actual like number 10. Like his expected assists are not in that realm at all when you're comparing him to other attacking midfielders. And so he's kind of I think he's much like Eric Tommy, right? His best fit would be as sort of a second striker or shadow striker or whatever you want to call it, playing underneath Joveljic. And I just don't. I mean, that's one thing that we have not seen from Zavagnin is an attempt to sort of wholesale change the whole sort of starting formation, right? Yes, the formation does drift into the 3 to in build out when Sporting Kansas City has the ball, but they still are starting nominatively 3 midfielders, right? They're still basically in a 4-3-3 as their starting shape, and so that means that you have to play 2 fullbacks in that system, and it doesn't appear that the team has 2 good fullbacks at all.
I don't think they have any good fullbacks, if I'm being honest.
And Denbe has his issues for sure, but he at least does some things well. And so...
and Denbe, the majority of Ndenbe's usefulness is ball progression up the left wing and sort of combination in the attack as that wide kind
of wing back stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
because he does not get back defensively.
No.
for a 20. Well, how old is Logan Ndembe? Is he 24 now?
23 or 24, yeah.
I mean, he's 25 now. Holy
Is
crap.
he really?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, he's been with the team because they signed him right before he turned 22.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. He's a 25-year-old defender, and I've never seen a guy give less of a shit about getting back on defense that's 25 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe it's those big legs are hard to freaking keep moving for 90 minutes, but
Well, I think it's that. I think also he is relied upon so much
Right.
to progress the ball and to actually contribute in the final third that he might as well be Jordi Alba, right? Like he's spending all of his time down on that side of the field, and I don't think.
But what that means is Joaquin Fernandez is your wide left defense.
Right. That's the thing, and I think that worked a lot better when it was Robbie Volliter,
Right.
but it does not work. It does not work with Joaquin Fernandez, and especially it doesn't work with Joaquin Fernandez if Joaquin Fernandez's backup is the person providing cover for him is Brody, right? Like it doesn't like those. There are multiple dominoes that are falling in that situation that are causing
Did
problems.
Jansen Miller have another goal line clearance? Was it this game or was it Seattle?
No, it was this game. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like Jansen Miller is having to like run around with a fire extinguisher.
Well, he's playing.
most of the
He's
time.
basically playing two positions.
Right.
So as you noted last time, like why not just scrap it and just go like a 3-4-3 and not even bother with a right back at all, because that is basically what's happening, right? So like that is,
They don't
that's
have
that's
any
what I
right
would
backs.
do. Right? They
have any
don't.
Right backs.
They don't. So
Their left
bother
back
with it?
Their left back is basically playing wing back.
Yep.
They have no right backs. What's the point? Also, why do we like? I cannot see any circumstance upon which Joaquin Fernandez is on this roster next year.
No.
So why aren't we playing Ian James?
I don't know, because he made a mistake and
Well,
gave up a penalty. I don't know. That's not the only thing that's starting to give a little like Peter Vermes vibes here.
I mean,
right? Like
to be fair, you don't want to lose a 17-year-old kid.
You don't,
Like,
but you also, but one way to lose him is by burying him on the bench when he makes one mistake, right?
Well, and especially because he can't, like Mike Kuna alluded to this on Shades of Blue this week. He can't play with the twos right now because there's so many injuries in the center back room. He has to be on the bench for every game.
Yeah.
So he's getting zero playing time right now.
I don't know that playing with the twos would be that valuable anyway, but yes.
I mean, some game fitness, some match sharpness would be good. Yeah, some match sharpness
absolutely
would be good.
needs to play. Yeah.
I mean, the good news is because he's not playing so much, he's definitely been in the weight room. Like, you can see he's continuing to yoke up. Like, that kid was big to begin with. Well, he was a pretty big 17-year-old kid to begin with, but he's getting, I mean, like, I'm glad that he's available, that he's around the first team all the time and whatnot, but I'm also like, we need to sprinkle some starts in for this guy.
Yeah.
The thing is, Volliter is in full training now. He may be like actually available for Vancouver. He hasn't made the bench the last two, obviously, because being out for as long as he was, he needs to get up to fitness. But that may be moot. But I would not mind a Volliter, Bartlett, Miller back three.
No, I would like for them to try that. I would like for Zavagnin to at least sort of kick the tires on that and see if it's a viable thing. I mean, you have nothing really to lose, right? Like, yes, there's a chance that Sporting Kansas City could make the playoffs, but even if I don't know that even is the goal, right? The goal is to really get a good roster assessment going into the off season, and I think
develop your kids
right, and you can do that by trying some different formational things and seeing what sticks, right? Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know. It's just one of many sort of confusing things, right? That the continued burying of Steven Afrifa, which I could totally understand if Shapi Suleimanov really lighten things up, but he's not. He's had a few, iffy games in a row, and so it's just confusing.
Offensively, he has, but Shoppy's a way better defensive player than Stephen Afrifa is. Afrifa is a big minus defensively, and wingers have to defend in this system. They have to, and if they run this 4-4-2 again, obviously they have to. So I think I'm not going to dive too far into the Stephen Afrifa debate, other than to say, but I've heard things, and there are reasons why he's not playing.
It's not just him, right? It's Mason Toye. Why don't you, let's.
Toye came on. Well, so here's the thing, though. You highlighted this when Munoz came on and they played in this 4-4-2, and he's sort of playing, combining, underneath Joveljic and playing sort of with him as a second forward. When they brought Toye on and Toye moved up there, and Munoz moved to one of the wide positions, immediately took Munoz out of the game. Like, he was no longer impactful at all.
That's not his game, man. He is.
So if you're gonna bring Mason Toye on, Toye's got to play winger. He can't. That's again where we're talking about like choices that are made at certain points in time.
So that's another thing that I think would be worth seeing the last half dozen or so games is let's put Mason Toye on at wing and see if he can give him a start.
Or Toye has to come on for Joveljic there and play as a target man. Like, I feel like what Zavagnin was trying to do was put enough target guys up top that they could play in long and try to get a goal that way, right? Yep. But it took Munoz completely out of the game after he had been causing all kinds of problems, and they didn't get anything out of it. Now, that's easy to Monday morning quarterback this and go, this didn't work, why'd you do that? And I think if I'm being fair to him, I think that's what he was trying to do. He kind of threw everything at the wall at the end to try to get the second goal, which I can respect. Right, that is not, in the past they might have shut that game down and just taken the draw. Yeah, and so I can respect the fact that they attempted to score even if what he did didn't really work out. But going back to kind of just the way this team playing, having sort of just not coming off, and we talked about the fact that there's a lack of structure. I think that that's part of it, but I also think that there's just a soccer IQ issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they just don't read space very well.
No. In attack or in defense.
Both the players running into space as well as the player meant to pass into that space, along with, like you said, defensively, recognizing what their cover shadow is and how to block a passing lane. This team's terrible at blocking passing lanes, like really bad at it. Yeah. And almost to the point where, I banged on the Joaquin Fernandez drum, but he's not the only one who will literally just watch the ball go by him.
Yeah.
Because his positioning's so poor, and there's just no way that by the time the pass is hit, like, there's no chance. Right? And it's a really big issue. Like, one of the, the 4 pillars of the Peter Vermees system was intelligence.
Yeah.
And he signed most of these guys. I signed all these guys, really, with the exception of a couple. And the smartest players on the team are the ones Mike Burns signed.
Mm-hmm. It does definitely appear that way.
And so, so many situations where guys don't make the right run, or they make the right run and it's the wrong pass, or they make the wrong run and it's the right pass, and it's just misconnection after misconnection, and it's just I have sort of said it seems like there's no rapport between these players. I think it's just that they're not they're not reading at the game at the same speed.
Yeah. So often they, defensively, they just they're constantly confused about how their spacing, like how far off they need to be, how soon after the player they're guarding receives the ball should they be there, how much space should they give that player. And you see so many times in a game teams just passing around Sporting Kansas City defenders like their cones, right? And that should not be the case. And perfect example is Rothrock's assist Morrison, Shelton just gives him all the space in the world that he could possibly want and does not provide any sort of ball pressure at all. And you can't do that with players who are starting quality attackers in any league, and even in MLS.
The whole point is to force them into a decision they don't want to make.
Absolutely,
and you can't, if you let them choose of their own volition, you're gonna put
lose
yourself into problems. And this is so much, and I mentioned this about Shelton when we sort of had an evaluation of him last time we recorded, and it's something that was just similar that I just saw in the NYCFC game as well as the Seattle game. There's just too much reacting and not enough anticipating.
Yeah.
There's not enough like seeing what's happening and proactively preparing yourself for the next step. It's a lot of waiting for the thing to happen and then scrambling to do something about it.
Well, and frankly, Drew, drilling during practice should eliminate a lot of that thinking, right? Like that's part of the whole point is to drill those movements and that recognition into muscle memory, and so that you don't have to think about it during a game. And that is not only not happening for Shelton, it's not happening for a lot of players. And so that just like it's a circular argument. It brings us right back to the original question of whether it's the players who are bad or whether Zavagnin is not a good coach, or like it's really difficult to know which one of those things is a larger contributing factor.
I think, when it comes to the Zavagnin side of things, I think I can sort of understand why the prevailing sort of opinion would be he's gotten results that the other coach couldn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's impossible to appropriately evaluate how good or bad he is because this roster is so bad.
Yeah, and he is winning out on vibes, right?
Right.
And vibes matter, especially from the coach, right? Vibes,
well, especially on a shitty team like this team. I mean, now granted, they've been 500 since he took over, which is actually decent. Right, that is 500 is usually a playoff team in MLS, right? So he has been at the level of a non-home game playoff team since taking over the club, even though they're it's been a little lucky to get to that place, but but the vibes lead into you getting lucky results as well, right? Yep. The team being bought in all the time and not getting like that is a big component of that. So
if you don't get the vibes right, players are not busting their ass for you in the 90th minute.
Right. And I can understand why a leadership would be in a position where they would say, "Hey, I'm actually pretty impressed with what he's achieved with the same stuff that the 15-year coach behind him had."
Right.
And could not get anything out of. Right?
Right. He's a safe bet, especially absent an understaffed front office.
Right, and
I think absent a fully staffed front office, I should say.
Exactly, and it's also a scenario where has he at the least given himself the opportunity to get a small contract until next year, or maybe it's a 2-year deal or something like that as the head coach where. Okay, we're gonna roll with you. We're gonna give you some better pieces. We're gonna get a chief soccer officer and a front office in place that can help us build out an idea of how we want to play. Let's see how you work within that and continue to pull this team forward. Yeah. I could understand why they would have that mindset. I really, like, to your point, I honestly couldn't tell you if he's a good MLS coach or not right now. I think he's done enough that even if new chief soccer officer comes in and says, "Nah, we're going somewhere else," he's going to have job offers.
Sure.
Like, he's done well enough that that's going to be the case. But I also could understand why ownership, leadership, whoever would also be looking at him and going, he's done enough to earn the right to keep doing this for at least another 12 months, right?
Yeah.
I can get why that they would be behind that mentality as well. I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm just saying, like, it would make sense for that to be the case. So speaking of the front office, let's sort of move our way towards this week's sort of tactical corner, front office corner, whatever you want to call it. This team still has very few front office staff. I did confirm last week that they did not hire the assistant sporting director. That role was never filled. So, best as I can tell, Mike Burns, Jacob Peterson, like Sam Kovsan does some video stuff for them. There's not a whole lot going on in the front office. They have a number of open positions that they candidly, on the coaching staff, so the technical staff in general, right? So when we talk about front office, I'm talking about the technical staff in general, right? Their total number of coaches on the first team is 4. And one of them is the goalkeeper coach, and one of them is the interim head coach. So, the third is Ash Wallace, who's been with the team for quite a while. And the fourth is Roger Espinosa, who was hired in March to be like a sort of player development coach, like focused on, young homegrowns and the higher end of the academy. Now he is basically coaching nonstop with the first team because of need. So, Zoran Savic leaves, Peter leaves, Kerry gets elevated. So now they're down at least 2 coaches on the coaching staff. They can't really hire those because they have no chief soccer officer. They can't really fill any of the other front office positions that Mike Burns told us about at the beginning of the year because, again, they have no chief soccer officer. And when I say they can't do it without a chief soccer officer, it's because who is going in their right mind is going to take one of these jobs knowing that in a couple months a new boss is coming in that could just say, nah, you're out of here. I'm bringing in somebody else. It doesn't make any sense to even attempt to fill these roles right now because even if you get a knock it out of the park candidate, that candidate, if they're worth their salt, is gonna be like, well, I don't know about if I want to take this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody wants job security, especially more than like a couple of months.
Right. So it does have a significant impact on several areas, right? How quickly Sporting can staff up to actually start building out this structure necessary to make this quote-unquote rebuild or whatever you want to call it effective. But additionally, we've got a transfer window opening, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah.
As we're recording this. And Sporting was meant to be fairly active in this window. This would have been the second window of the 3 that we had been promised as sort of being the timing in which they would sort of be rebuilding and adding to this roster. And I don't know how realistic it is to expect much of significance happening given all of the things I just laid out.
Yeah, it's it's kind of man,
this podcast is going to be really dour today, man.
I'm telling you, it
feels bad. I'm not really bad about the team. I'm not.
No, I'm
but
not
I feel
either.
Like I think we've highlighted a bunch of bad things, and I don't want it to come off that way.
I'm not either, but I think it's important to be realistic, right? And if anybody is sort of has any high expectations about the participation of Sporting Kansas City in this summer window, I think they need to be they need to have their eyes wide open as to what the status of things is, and the status of things in the front office is just there hasn't been any movement, and you need people in those positions to effectively make decisions for the future of the club, and absent those people, you can't really make big decisions, and so you shouldn't be expecting high level DPs. You shouldn't be expecting large transfer fees paid for U22 players. You shouldn't be expecting anything like that takes a significant amount of investment, because why would you invest those in those things if you don't have your full front office built out, and arguably the most important component of that, your chief soccer officer in place.
Right.
So
I mean, they hired Mike Burns specifically to do this work, right? Like, that was his job,
right,
was to find the players, negotiate their contracts, sign them for the first team. That is his job responsibility.
Right.
That he doesn't have a boss outside of ownership right now, sort of to approve these transactions is an issue. But I do think, at the least, with the transactions that he has made so far, he has shown a propensity to make mostly good decisions.
Seems like it.
With that, right?
Yeah.
Flipping Willie Agata into $500,000 in GAM that does expire, by the way, so we would want to be using that this summer. And Santi Munoz seems pretty good, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I feel like he got the good side of that. Joveljic and Manu Garcia. Obviously, these are building blocks for a good team in the future. We're on the same page of that. Having to take Shapi Suleimanov as part of the Garcia deal, I think was, he's probably a squad player at MLS level, which if they are able to sign another high quality attacker, he will be, right? And I mean, how much of his fee is really on his cap charge, I don't really know. He's a TAM player because, who knows what his actual budget charge is. I think his salary is right around $900,000 or something like that. Maybe a little high for what he is as a player, but I mean, we're getting into like, we're not like, oh my God, what a failure by him to sign this guy, right? Like, we're not there, right? Like, it's more like, maybe gave up a little too much to get this guy as far as taking this on, but not like the worst thing in the world. So, like, when you look at all of those transactions, outside of what they did at right back to start the season, which is borderline malpractice, they've been pretty good. And for all I know, Peter Vermees drove some of that stuff that happened at right back in the offseason, because we know how much he trusted Kyrie and Jake Davis to play right back, right? So that might have been partly on him. Regardless, I say all that to say, I think that there is some trust in the fact that Burns can make some of these deals on his own. But I also agree with you. I find it hard to believe that ownership's going to be like, yeah, go ahead and use a bunch of that discretionary budget right now. Unless, some sort of crazy DP offer comes in that would be negotiated with ownership anyway, right? So, like, LAFC purportedly is trying to sign Son Heung-min, which, of course, it's LAFC.
It was never going to be anybody else.
I know, but, man, you know how much I love Sonny.
Yeah.
And you know how much he's going to cook in MLS for a couple of years. Like, that guy will absolutely cook in MLS.
And he will be worshipped in LA, dude. It'll be great.
He should. I mean, yeah, well, especially given the Korean community in LA as well. Yeah. But yeah, I think that he is one of those guys that, it's hard not to love him. If you're a fan of the team that he plays on, if you're a fan of soccer in general, like, it's hard not to love Sonny.
Yep.
I think I said this on the SoccerWise Discord. It's like, if not my favorite Spurs player, definitely in the top 3.
Yeah.
All time. So it will be a bummer for me to see him playing for another MLS team. But if that does mean I get to see him play a couple times a year, I'm all for it.
Hell yeah.
I love that guy so much. But that's what I'm saying. If Son Heung-min falls in your lap, you don't need a CSO to make that deal. You make that deal, right?
Right.
Yep. I think any other types of, like you said, U22s or a third DP, which they have the flexibility to do if they would like, I just don't see that happening, right? So I think you're probably going to see, hope to God they're trying to find a right back. Like, please tell me they're trying to find an actual right back.
Or a couple healthier center backs, so we just go all in on 3 center backs and let's just do it.
I mean, maybe so.
They're not going to do that, but that's what I'm saying.
I've seen more of Danny Rosero in street clothes over the last several weeks than I have. And I mean, I don't know what's going on as far as the center back situation. But yeah, I mean, those are need areas, right? And we've discussed this plenty enough times. What positions are need areas that definitely should be addressed if they're signing players. But like how splashy these signings are likely to be, I would not expect something super significant. I will say this. They have roughly, I think it's somewhere in the range of $700,000 or $800,000 in GAM that I know for a fact expires this year. So that is stuff that they have to use or lose. I think that there's a portion, I think maybe as much as $1 million of the U22 model GAM is also available to them. I don't know if I see them spending $1.8 million in salary budget charge on middle of the roster players this window, but they could, and if they don't, they lose that money. They lose that flexibility. It could be like a small transfer fee, and then they use that allocation money to buy it down, right? If you buy off the transfer fee up front, then in the future you have more flexibility because that transfer fee is no longer on the player's budget charge. So I think that there are some potential things they could be doing there to maintain flexibility in the future. And for me, that would be the biggest bummer, is if they don't use this allocation money they have available this year, affect that it doesn't roll, the stuff that doesn't roll over. If they don't use it, they're hurting themselves in the future with flexibility, right?
Yep.
And so that is the part that concerns me a little bit about where the front office is regarding who they who they sign, or how significant the signings could be, because I want the team to at least be using all of its available options to maintain flexibility as well as build quality in the roster. And I have some concerns given how thin the front office is and the expectation of a chief soccer officer coming in at some point, what that could look like in this transfer window.
I am just at the point where I'm just kind of I've grown fatigued of this situation, right? I want the front office to be robust. I want them to start being I think more proactive instead of reactive in the way that they address roster building, and to me that can't happen until the front office is has the staffing that it needs to, and so that obviously that's not going to happen magically before the summer window, and so that means that that you're putting a high emphasis on the next couple of months on the front office side of things to prepare for next year. And so
well, also realistically, the number of staff that you have to hire after the chief soccer officer is put in place, how many of them are going to be in sort of scouting, analytics, sort of player analysis, recruiting, all that kind of stuff. It's going to take you months after that to get all those people in place.
Well,
the season's going to be over, and you're going to be in the winter recruiting window, and
right.
You're going to have very little as far as runway to actually get those personnel moving forward.
Right. It's frustrating to me that like we're here talking about this now, because
it's only been 3.5 months, man. Like it's pretty common for a role of this level of responsibility at any business. They don't fill it in any faster than this, right? Like that is kind of what happens. I think the bigger issue was they waited too long to move on from Vermees.
Right.
And now we're feeling pain as the rebuild has already begun, right? You would have ideally liked to have cut, if you were going to, because it was always going to be extremely painful to cut from Vermees, right? His hands were in too many things.
Right.
Like the number of stories I've heard this year of like different stuff that he had oversight on, it's insane. Yeah. The level of just sort of maniacal attention to detail that he had and control that he wanted to exude over everything. It is going to take several people to sort of complete all of the things he was doing. It should have already been several people.
Right.
But because his nature was such that he wanted personal control over all of it, it never happened. And so they're having to do that all now. And they're going to have to hire someone who's super sharp that can build that organization out. And it's going to take time. And I think we had said this a couple of years ago on this podcast when we floated whether or not Peter Vermees should have been fired then, before they ran off the string of results and beat St. Louis in the playoffs. When they move on from him, it's going to be several years of pain, because it just is going to take that long to build the structure up and get the personnel in place. And not every hire you make is going to knock it out of the park, and you're going to have to make some adjustments after that. And it's just a natural sort of growth that the organization's going to have to go through. And in the meantime, as fans of this team, we want them to start playing better. And I don't know how realistic it is to expect that they're going to be able to fix these problems while it's like building a plane in the air, right? The whole analogy
truly
about
that's
that,
what it is,
right?
Yep.
And I think, I don't know. I don't want to be pessimistic about it. I think that some realism also needs to be in play about how successful they can be in building this team up by the beginning of next season.
I guess I just thought that since Vermes was let go before the end of the season, and that before the end of the European seasons, that would open up a much wider field of possible applicants or candidates for the CSO job, and so I kind of, that's why I kind of expected that position to be filled in a relatively short period of time, is because this is the time to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak, when at the end of all those European seasons.
Do you think that they should be hiring a European chief soccer officer?
I don't know. I'm just I just in terms of having as large a pool of prospective applicants as you can. That was just my thinking.
I mean, I can see how badly St. Louis is fucking that up right now. And
that's true. That is true.
Now, granted, I there's a lot going on inside the building at St. Louis that creates that scenario, but you'd certainly have potential for. I know that. Let me see. What's the best way I can say this? Because there is information I have, but I can't share about some of this stuff. Like
how dare you, Drew?
How dare I? And I don't mean to lord it over people, but people tell me stuff in confidence, and I'm not going to break that confidence. What I think is out there is clear is that ownership understands that they need help in identifying the right candidate for this. They are using a search firm to identify it. That process is progressing. Let me put it that way. That's the best way that I can state it right now. That process is progressing, and I don't think it's out of pocket for me to say that they are very focused on getting the CSO in place first. That is the goal. So I think neither of those things would be things for me to say that I think are, earth-shattering things that shouldn't be said. But so as far as from fans of the team and what's happening next, I think that that process is moving forward. And yeah, it's frustrating because you want it to happen sooner. But I will say this. If you go through the whole search process, you identify candidates, you whittle it down, you come down to your 5 or 8 of them that you want to do a first time interview with, and you whittle that down to 3, and now you're in your final group of interviews, and then you whittle it down to the person you want to offer the job to, and then you're negotiating contracts, and then you're trying
then you change your mind and hire Gavin Wilkinson at the last minute.
I'm not even getting into that conversation. But yeah, I mean, if you go through all of that process, right, it takes a lot of time to accomplish, right?
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
And even if you're at contract stage with someone, you're still talking about background checks and legal and HR and all kinds of other things that have to happen as well. So, it takes a minute from getting to get to that place, and I don't think that they are behind schedule. Let me put it that way.
Gotcha.
And let's see how that goes. And I think what's going to be really important is that whoever this individual is, when they are able to get them hired and in role, how quickly that person can really hit the ground and start building the staff around them that is necessary to address some of these very significant needs this team has, both in the technical staff as well as on the field.
Yeah, and it would also be nice not to be at dead last or whatever in the analytics survey.
Well, of course they don't have no analytics personnel. They have 2 front office staff.
Right I know. I'm just saying that's just the thing that we can add to the list. And
on the technical staff, there are I think there are 2 in the front office right now.
Yeah,
so
that is wild.
Hard to have an analytics department. when that is a scenario. I know Mike Burns wants to have an analytics, at least person, if not analytics department. I'm sure new CSO will want that as well, but they have not really been able to hire it. And again, that goes back to Peter Vermees being very reluctant to hire someone for analytics, which was, again, we've talked about this too much. But I mean, which is interesting because they were one of the first people doing it when Rui worked for the club, right? So like,
it's all Rui's fault.
Rui should not have gotten into Kansas State
soured
politics.
He soured him to the whole thing.
I mean, it gets into a lot of stuff, man, about Vermees and his ability to let people into his inner circle and to trust them and to give up control of certain things. There's just a lot there, man. And I don't think even on this podcast we have enough time to unpack all of that. Realistically, he's not there anymore. So they have a bit of a blank slate. I think Sam McDowell mentioned this when he did the whole conversation about after Vermees' firing, kind of like where the team goes from here. And he mentioned the fact that being so low rated in analytics and not having an analytics department, when Mike Illig is actually very interested in that topic, like it is something that he is very he thinks is a very intriguing and interesting way to build competitive advantage. Having a coach that was so sort of openly against it, I mean, it's kind of a wild situation, but I think you can see, I think that there's opportunity for change to happen in that regard. And again, we'll have to see when that happens, how quickly that change can occur. That's my main concern, honestly. In the short term, I could see one or two signings, but I would not expect them to be super noteworthy or to be long-term investments of any kind. They will probably be low-risk, shorter-term things that if they work out, maybe they'll stick with. But I don't think you're going to see 3-year guaranteed contracts handed out.
And sometimes that can turn out okay. I mean, Zoran Basong has been a good signing, and so let's hope for more of that and less of Andrew Brody, not Adrian Brody. Good Lord.
Chad Reynolds called him Adrian too, and then who's the other Brody? That's Adam Brody. He called him both of them before getting to Andrew Brody.
Well, at least I'm in good company.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to potpourri. Just like your favorite Jeopardy category, we got a couple topics in and around the Sporting Kansas City MLS soccer sphere. The MLS All-Star Game, is it happening right now as a recording? I think it's on. I don't know. I saw the starting lineup.
I don't know. You're in your notes. It says, "Do we care?" And the answer to that is obviously no. We don't even know when it is.
We don't. I mean, I did watch the skills contest last night. That was
okay.
Fun. I like the skills contest. I think that's.
Did you watch it for the skills or for Deuce?
I mean, Deuce barely did any. He did the passing one. That's the only one he actually did. Now, hearing Deuce talk shit with Mo Adu, that was fun. There was a lot, and Sasha Kleshin, like they were having a big back and forth. Now that was fun. I am obviously not of the age group that cares about very popular Twitch streamers, but iShow Speed was there, and so that was a big deal, I guess.
Okay.
Cool. Anyway, that was when I felt extremely old. Like I'm aware of him, like I know who he is. I did not understand like why it was a big deal that he was there. I guess he has like across Twitch and social media one has like 120 million followers or something like that. So I'm sure that was valuable.
If that's what it takes to make soccer pop in this country, then
if Lionel Messi's going to bow out of the whole week, then you need to bring somebody in.
You got to have someone with the juice.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I really don't care about the game at all. I find the game to be completely pointless. It really All-Star games in general, I just don't.
Amen.
I mean, the only All-Star events that I care about are generally the skill-related ones. So like. I like the slam dunk contest and the 3-point contest in the NBA.
Yeah.
I love the home run derby. And then the MLS skills competition was fun. Like the thing where they have to do the 2 touches into the giant skee ball. or they have to do the one where they're having to hit the targets around the goal. That's kind of fun. Evander broke the record. Ache had the record in that one, and Evander broke it. And it was pretty cool. But and then the thing at the end where they have to hit the crossbar from like 35 yards. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
it's not appointment viewing for me, and I missed it. So,
oh, trust me. Like if I had literally anything else to do, it's not like I'm running home. Hey babe, the skills contest is on. We gotta watch it. Like no, let's wrap this up and get home so I can watch the skills. No, not that. It's more like if I'm sitting at home, I will, and the skills contest is on. I will watch it. I will not watch any of this All-Star game. Any of it. Not just because we're recording the podcast right now. Like literally, I will not watch any of it. So anyway, fine. The big story out of MLS All-Star is both Jordi Alba and Lionel Messi bowing out of this game. It seems unclear as to why they aren't there, if they're choosing not to play or if they're trying to, quote unquote, be injured. Don Garber did his, press conference before the game just now, and Bogart's got a bunch of quotes from him, and one of them is, questioning, because in the past when this has happened, like very famously, Zlatan skipped the All-Star game and then was not allowed to play on the weekend. Like they have this rule where if you skip the All-Star game, you are ineligible for the next game your team plays in. Last year it didn't matter because Messi was injured. This year he chooses not to go, and we're not really sure why. He's just not there. And the quote from Garber is, "We're managing through that process as we speak," as far as whether or not he will be suspended. It is actually a big deal because it's Miami and Cincinnati again, which is the top two in the Eastern Conference. That's a big thing. Deal. And in fairness, competitively, Evander is starting in this game for the MLS All-Stars and playing in this game. And I don't know how much he'll play, but he is at the All-Star game. He did well in the skills contest last night. He's playing in the game tonight. Messi and Jordi Alba are just bowing out. I do think at some level, competitively, they need to be, I understand that Miami, or that, Messi is their white whale, but not going to look great if they let Messi play. That said, it's also probably the most intriguing game of the weekend that they want a bunch of people watching, and they don't want Messi and Alba suspended for it, right? So it's like it's putting them in a weird spot. I'm not sure what the right answer is for it, but
I mean, you would think that Messi could, pay somebody enough money to come up with a good excuse for him. Yeah, maybe he needed dental work, or his
but
dog.
That's the thing though. Like in any of those circumstances, you are still suspended for the following game if that happens, right? And so, anyway, the other big
watching MLS trip over itself is just always so entertaining to me.
Well, I mean, what do you expect, right? Like similarly, right? There was a lot of eye rolls about Rodrigo de Paul. So like it seems like this is done. Rodrigo de Paul is going to join Miami in this window, probably tomorrow, and will be on the team as a TAM player on loan for 6 months prior to his option, his buy option being exercised in the offseason.
Love it.
And listen, I understand why a lot of people are eye rolling at this. This is stuff that has been used in the league by other teams, including Sporting Kansas City in the past. Okay, Sporting did this with Gadi Kinda. It was by all accounts a guaranteed buy option on Gadi Kinda. He was a TAM player his first year on the team, and then he became a DP in the offseason. So not at this scale, obviously. Pep Biel, notoriously in Charlotte, has been done this way a couple times to get around the DP rule. So trust me, this is not the first time this has happened. Miami saw some other teams doing it and go, ooh, I have an idea. And it makes sense, right? Like, why wouldn't they do this? Rodrigo de Paul obviously is friends with Messi. He's Argentinian, plays for the Argentinian national team, wants to play on this team. And Rodrigo De Paul's 31 years old. Like, this is a legitimate, like, back end of his prime central midfielder, right?
Yep.
That they're getting, that is worthy of a DP slot on an MLS team. Sounds like probably Busquets retires in the offseason, and they have a good central midfield stalwart. So this is a good signing for Miami. The thing that I think a lot of people are missing in this is, like, I think Paul Tenorio was like, well, Atletico's going to have to cover all his salary except for $870,000 or whatever it is, which is half the max TAM charge. Everyone forgets the fact that Miami has millions of dollars in GAM from all the player sales they've done. So they started the year with like 5 or 6 or something like that million, and they used some of it with some of the signings they made, but they still have several $1,000,000 in GAM. GAM can be used to defray the cost of a loan fee or a transfer fee. So yes, his salary, quote unquote, will be $870,000 for the rest of this year. It's also a half season. So yes, while his salary at Atletico was like 6.6 million euros, it's 3.3. So what's the difference between 3.3? I mean, euros a little bit more than $1. So like, let's say it's 2.8 million is the rest of his salary. Miami has all of that in GAM. They can give to Atletico to cover the rest of his salary, and it's all kosher. I know a lot of people don't like hearing that, but this is them working the rule book, man. Like, this is not like when Jorge Mas was paying guys under the table, okay?
Right.
This is legitimate, like, cap strategy, working the rule book, and you may not like it, and I guarantee you no other MLS team gets away with this maneuver with Atletico Madrid and Rodrigo De Paul. No fucking way. Like, if it's not Lionel Messi and Inter Miami, there's absolutely no way this deal gets done like this. But they're using their position to their advantage, and I think they're going to be scary with him in the midfield, man.
Hell yeah. And I think it's all entertaining, honestly. I don't know why people get upset about it. I mean, it's easy.
Nobody wants to see a super team, right? Like, everyone hates the super team in soccer, right? Unless you're a fan of them.
Sure, but like, the Galaxy.
Bro, you're
were
a Liverpool
super team.
fan. You're a Liverpool fan that just signed Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike. So don't even get me started. Like, you come from a place.
Drew, you are changing. You are changing the whole focus. You're moving the goalposts on this conversation big time. No, I mean, I get it. Like, anybody who's followed the league for any amount of time, this is not a surprise, because Galaxy, there were always shenanigans with the LA Galaxy, and
those actually were shenanigans. Like, those were MLS
but I mean,
changing rules on the fly.
It turned out okay. Look, the Galaxy were and are huge villains in the league, and deservedly so. But that makes it fun, and like, more, I don't know, like, I have just a hard time rooting against having more good players in the league, and to that end, this is all a creation of MLS ownership being too slow to change roster roles, and so one
ownership group being super aggressive about it.
Yeah, they have painted themselves into this corner. They have nobody but themselves to blame, and so nobody should be blaming Inter Miami. They should be blaming
the owners
MLS.
of their teams.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
no, blame the owners of their own teams. To be
absolutely
completely honest,
they're the ones who are holding up the progress.
To be fair, I think this is great too. Like, this is using the rules in a very sort of inventive manner, or not even inventive, using a loophole that several teams have used to their advantage and taking it, like, to an extreme level. I think it's very smart. And will MLS front off? Will a bunch of owners that don't like it cry foul? And will MLS make a change next year to the rules about loans with buy options? Maybe. But in the meantime, this is the rule book. They're taking advantage of it, and they're getting another great player. And I agree with you. More good players in the league is better than less. And I understand where the eye rolls and everything come from, but I also, like, I don't care. Get mad at your owner that they didn't do this themselves, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Every single one. Well, not every, but I would say, of the 30 teams in MLS, at least 26 of them have owners with a net worth capable of doing what Miami did.
I mean, Sporting almost signed Cristiano Ronaldo, you know.
Oh God, why do we have to do this every time? Why do we have to do this every time?
You are the one who said that like there was fire to where that smoke was. So
There
I'm
was
actually
fire to it.
okay, so I'm on your side here. Like like Sporting Kansas City's fans should be happy that their ownership group made a run at, you know, the second best player of all time.
I don't know about all time of our generation for sure.
Okay.
Not all time. I mean, there's a lot of real. I mean, I'm not even getting into that sports talk conversation.
No,
About
I'm trolling,
generations.
so it's
But yeah, what I'm saying is yes, Sporting Kansas City has owners with the net worth
yep.
capable of
They
doing
sure do.
what Miami's doing. Many MLS teams have owners with the net worth capable of doing what Miami's doing. Do they choose to or not to? That's up to them. But don't get mad at Miami's ownership for pushing the limits. And I think, to your point, the more that it happens, the more that it's either going to force a change, or I think it's really just going to force other owners to push forward, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to start seeing some of that. Another the other quotes from Bogert regarding Garber's press conference were about the schedule switch. They did discuss it again. I think it's going to happen at some point. I have heard of at least one of the teams that was strongly against it. And it tracks with what I know about that organization. But it's just like look, I understand the logistics involved with it. I understand the difficulties with the cold weather climates, but I think this is just going to happen at some point. And it's just a matter of figuring out all of those pieces and getting enough people on board to say yes to it. I did read an interesting article today talking about how bad it would be, and it did focus on Minnesota and places like that. And I do agree that those climates are going to struggle the most. They're going to have to make substantive changes to their stadiums to keep both the players as well as the fans safe in those circumstances. Probably going to have to, I feel like Allianz is already sort of surrounded pretty well. It is. Yeah. So like I think that from that perspective there is some, but yeah, you're gonna have to start thinking about how you're gonna heat seating areas and all that kind of stuff to make it more functional, but as well as practice. But these are all things that they can get through. And honestly, sitting out there last weekend, just standing and sweating,
yeah.
And watching the players like be dead legged after 25 minutes.
Yep.
That's not fun either, man.
No.
And it's way worse. Like I can't imagine playing in Miami in the summer. Jesus.
Houston.
Oh my God. Yeah. Ugh. It's like 100 at this game in Austin this week for the All-Star game. So it's like, yeah.
But that's a dry heat, Drew.
No, it's not. I lived in Austin for a long
time.
It is not. Arizona is a dry heat, okay?
I just meant compared to Houston. Everything's dry compared to Houston.
I mean, yes, it is. I agree. Yeah. 99% humidity is worse than 65% humidity. I agree with that. But it's not dry in Austin by any means. Anyway, it is. What else is in the news? Rodrigo DePaul. We talked about Son Heung-min. I think that's kind of all the news. So we can move on to one thing to look for. Sporting Kansas City traveled to Vancouver this weekend to play against a team that is coached very well, plays a lot of the fun sort of spatial arrangement soccer that we were talking about that we really enjoy. That said, Vancouver is starting to get really tight on players. They were struggling results-wise through the Gold Cup because they had so many Canada national team as well as U.S. national team with Sebastian Berhalter players out. They got some of those back, and then Pedro Vite gets moved to Liga MX, and Ranko Veselinovic, who is probably in line for Defender of the Year, goes down with an ACL injury. So things are getting a little tight for the Whitecaps. That said, I have limited optimism on the road in Vancouver that this team is going to come away with a significant result. maybe because I'm saying all those things, that means we'll get another big variance game and they'll come out playing great. But turf on the road against a team who is very good at home, I don't have a whole lot of positive expectations for this one.
Yeah, I think that Vancouver has a good midfield, and whenever I watch them, they're super active, and both in attack and on defense, and so like that's primarily I think. I don't know. I tend to think of the midfield for Sporting Kansas City as more of a weakness, and that is part of the thing that leads them to play so much on the wings. And so I'm not really optimistic. I think that Vancouver does a really good job of creating space, as you mentioned, in the attack, but they also do a good job of limiting space. And I think they maybe play more of that sort of man-to-man style defending and pressing that we talked about in previous podcasts. And so I mean, I'm looking forward to the game just because I think that it's always fun to watch Sporting Kansas City play against some of the better teams and see how they stack up. And to their credit, as we discussed earlier, they competed in the second half against Seattle really well. But I don't expect them to really do that this time around. But I hope that I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, there's just I've got to give Jesper Sorensen a whole lot of credit. I mean, the way he's coached this team up to be as effective as they were. And even without Vite and with Veselinovic going down against San Diego, they still won that XG battle fairly significantly. Yeah. And the only goal they gave up was an own goal. So I really do think that, even with those limitations, he's still getting results out of them. And this is all with no Ryan Gauld all year. Like, yeah. It seems to be sort of unclear as to if and when Ryan Gauld will ever return to play. And they're still finding a way to get results out of, and they're using a lot of young players, Ralph Prizo and Jaden Nelson, and Jeevan Bodwal started as sort of an attacking midfielder in this game because Vite is gone, and they kind of ran a double pivot with Kubas and Berhalter. So we may see some of that. We may see some Ralph Prizo. We're going to see different things, but they have a very, Sorensen's getting a lot out of a lot of young players and homegrown players and whatnot. And they're a very difficult team to play against, and we expect them to be organized, and we expect them to create problems for Sporting with the ball. Like, that's the big thing, right? They're going to turn over in the midfield a lot, and that just seems to be a bugaboo. Those Sporting Kansas City. So it's not a good matchup for them. Let me put it that way.
No, I mean they're good at creating goals in transition events, which Sporting is still not great at defending, and
because they don't defend space.
They don't. They're terrible
at defending space.
I'm just excited to watch Cubas play, as every time he's just a pleasure to watch, honestly. As a D mid stan, Andres Cubas just does it for me. It's fun to watch.
He's a good player, and he is obviously a very important part of their of Vancouver's ability to turn the opponent over and then go very directly at them, because his passing is pretty good out of those positions as well. And I mean it's going to be a difficult test. And Sporting is off after this, so they've got a week off because I think Leagues Cup is starting up. And so they don't play another match until they get San Diego at home on August 9th. So it's kind of their last opportunity to stamp some, try to get a good result before they come back. I'm sure they'll get a couple days off to do whatever as well. Kerry's been pretty good about when they've had breaks, letting the guys do their thing. So we'll have to see how that works. We'll have to see how that works out for them. And we'll have to see what kind of lineup changes might happen on the basis of how results went against NYCFC, because I will say this, Kerry does move things around.
Yes, he does. He's not afraid to to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, based on, tactically what he's trying to accomplish, as well as kind of what the performances have been in those positions. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. And until we see that, and until next week when we get an opportunity to evaluate it, we will talk to y'all soon.
Go Sporting.